Northern Ireland doesn't really have very good research for the subsections that we need. We can't get access to some of the kind of minority groups that England would have, or Scotland. And Wales is actually incredibly good at being able to put its research, in line with the speed at which we're moving forward in society. So, they can access information very easily from a child's point of view or whatever. We can't here. We can't access as much as you think, and so we can't even do comparative analysis on some things. And so, how can we find out what a section of our society needs when we can't even access that data? And the data isn't always necessarily not there. It's maybe not being given because one trust may not want to give it to the other. Some of our members have had to get diagnosed in one trust, in another trust, and then a private. Northern Ireland, in its system of health and social care trusts, and its inability to function together cohesively has been a massive issue for this country. Their inability to see past the trauma of those people that perhaps they might be observing in social work, whatever, just due to lack of training perhaps. We all know that postcodes that can be primarily, they can dictate exactly how someone is going to live, and neurodivergent people are much higher propensity. So I was born in a council estate in Portadown, and there is a lot of difference in Northern Ireland than anywhere else. Just statistically, we're 25% more likely to die by suicide because of the troubles and the legacy of that. And let's be realistic with that research. That is an average out, but we're talking about intersections like Tigers Bay, all those places. Like, they're going to be much higher because they have a relationship with the troubles. They have family members and legacies and stories and leanings towards, but with nothing to do anymore. Unemployment, all sorts of other things. And so they can be locked out of opportunity. And unfortunately, that's part of the issue in Northern Ireland, is that we can't really analyse that as well as we'd like to. I would say lack of research is one issue, but lack of researchers being able to access data in order to give technology companies, the governments, education authorities, parent groups, community groups, everyone, to give them the answers they need to help the people who were born into this society no one was asked to. I think we all naturally gravitate towards our skill sets if we're ambitious. I am very ambitious. I've been ambitious for a long time. I was a musician. I'm a trained musician in terms of being self-taught, but I played since I was a kid, and so being a musician now, 30 odd years, is something that I did then. But being young affords a human being the right to be a little bit different and be a little bit childlike. And I think we were a bit more tolerant back in the 90s. So people could come in hungover, and I'll just leave old Ted alone. He's fine. Or I'll Maud needs to sit down because she's close to retirement. People are fine. That seems to have left a little bit. That used to be very normal in those days. So my experiences of employment came from working around the Carn industrial estate in Portadown, working in all the factories, not keeping a job, moving to London at the age of 20 with a bag and a guitar, and then leaving there 3 years later. Employment never lasted more than a year, but on average it would be gone straight away. Music was my life, so that's all I cared about, was writing music. Then I came back here, became a promoter, and started doing Lavery's Back Bar, then Pavilion, and then next thing you know, this is what I do. Being self-employed was good, but it was scattered. Nothing was clicking. I didn't have enough appreciation of my ignorance, and I certainly didn't have enough respect for that or others. I just didn't understand that. I didn't understand time. I felt confident, but there was things not working, and I didn't know who I was. I didn't know. I thought my symptoms were my behaviours. I was constantly chastised for that. But it was very effective in identifying behaviours and people and just all of that marketing and ideas and creativity. And so I became a marketer. After that, I moved to Cornwall for a bit and then came back and became a marketer. I was one of the first people to do Facebook marketing before Facebook had any marketing to do. I did poke for a pint, and so just the Facebook friends, you have to poke, and people would poke, and if your percentage of poking back from the people you were poking was the highest, you get a free pint. By the time I started to get into a degree at the age of 36, I was already a marketing manager, running a team, and about to be made a director of the company. For me, work was about strengths and about understanding everything that I wanted to do. But there's a difference between me and someone else who doesn't have ambition. Now, if you're born to think that you can be entitled to something, to just be given it, or you have to be shown or whatever, that was never me. And so you find ADHD people broken because their ambition just kept on getting them to do it. You know, until we've managed it, whether that's through medication, self-awareness and reflection and all sorts. But I find myself much more in control of who I am in employment sector, so I understand the micro behaviours that are different. I understand that how I spoke might not have been understood the same way. I didn't understand that what I was doing was not what anyone else was not doing. You know, and so those micro behaviours in any employment sector can be very combative. Or can result in a combative response. It's to get to the purpose that drives you. Okay. Ambition is the engine, ambition is the motivation, and purpose is your essence. Without purpose, you know, I've heard people using the rats experiment many times, you know, but essentially even experiments on them show that if a rat does not have purpose, you know, it will not function. But give it purpose, give it reason, give me reason. I was an alcoholic for many years. One of the things about being diagnosed late is the breaking and the pain inside the head on a non-stop basis before you know. You have no comparative understanding of other people, and so you're judged for being a drunk. You're judged for everything else. You don't know how to live. You can't go outside. You're actually an introvert, but you thought you were extrovert because your behaviour said it was, but they told you were. And so you're out, and the only way you can go out is to drink. And so at the age of 30, I was able to deal with it. But at 30, I was in hospital for 4 weeks because I tried to commit suicide another statistic, due to it was just too much. I genuinely felt, out of all the things I was told, they were right. There was no reason why I should be here. The only thing that kept me going, even when I was in hospital, was like drawing business ideas. I've always wanted to do the next thing. Yeah. I've always wanted to. It was my ambition that almost killed me in the end. My untrained, untapped, unguided, misguided, and inappropriately mangled, you know, all of a sudden things become more clear when you get diagnosed. When you're medicated, your brain slowly starts to get more grey matter. It slowly starts to, so when one part of the brain is signaling to the other, you know, other parts, you have a delay in your rationale, but your emotion is there, right? And then so you get this outburst and people are going, he's so angry. And it's like, well, actually, you know what? If we approached it slightly differently, you know, and so all of a sudden you start looking at yourself and looking at your ways, you become more introspective, and you start to become a better person because your brain's slowed down, because you're on medication, you're able to compute. All of a sudden you can think logically, like 90% of the sound is dead, it's gone. As soon as you take your medication, you're like, my goodness. Freedom, expression, I've written more songs than I ever have, I can control a thought, I can remember stuff when I need to, not what I want to. There's a big difference between being employed now than being employed when you don't know what you are. And so they're two different entities. We have now when we know what we are, so it's ignorance of people who are not actually looking at it and seeing what it is. Whereas when I was growing up, you were just weird and you genuinely believed everything that they said about you. I think there needs to be more mutuality in contracts, more of an understanding of the advocacy that potentially one part and the other part of whatever is doing. Right now, for example, a lecturer, extenuating circumstances, an extra 4 weeks for your essay or whatever. There's a lot of work goes in that, and that student may not know that actually in the adult world we get paid to advocate, right? It'd be good to start now without getting paid for it. I think we need more representation in the media and in popular culture. It's not work that's the issue. It's the blend between what we see outside and hold dear to ourselves, and how that manifests itself in work. If there was more representation of the marginalised people, and there was more representation of the people who are fearing they're losing their values, it's deliberative, it would be. So you have to kind of be culturally aware. And I think that's the issue, because if you look back at people fighting issues, it always comes back to what they feel is being lost. To me, it's the lack of the ability of having that mutuality and respect for someone else's job and someone else's role. To me, it has to be the understanding of the other people, representing in the media, representing in the news. There is a lot of things that we need to show representation of. That's the beauty of neurodivergency, right? Our memory is actually built on storytelling. Animals, everything, they are built on the process of movement, the process of what has happened. Your synapses form quicker through process, through action and play, than they do from just observing or just standing around trying to read. I think it personally puts us at a massive advantage in neurodiversity, because we're very, very, very agile, and we're incredibly good at pattern seeking. We're incredibly good at many, many things if given a chance. I guess to answer your question, what would make for good, what could change, make it better for people like us to come in? Very simple: represent parts of our society. Represent it so that we are one homogenous group of people with an empathetic web who actually damn well understand. So represent people, represent the elderly. Don't have people othering and stigmatising and reducing people down into nothing, which is a reductive process, stereotyping. So all of a sudden you become what that is. This world needs that to stop. So it needs to be mutuality. There has to be that understanding of those different bleeds from generations. That's representation on the media, TV programmes, funny comedies, right the way through from music, right the way through to art and everything. Everyone needs a representation. We're in a good world for it right now. Everything's individual and it's brilliant that way. Great TV is not 4 channels anymore. And so I personally believe that good representation of people, not society. Society is the context, the content is the people. And if we can show that and let a generation see, then why would they say anything or put a division in a group of people that they actually respect? That's not going to then filter through to others like us. So mutuality and a bleed between both. Trust has to be built. That's not possible in employment sectors. But we need programs that have a transitional approach. So we need videos, for example, of people in that place of work to break that down. We need to help maybe a policy review, let them see what they need to see on that other side, have the systems replicated here. If it's a chef place, why don't you use Belfast Met or something to use those kitchens to then get a 6-month programme in so that those people who are out of work for so long can get into work. And here's what people get wrong, like they genuinely think this is a consistent thing. I am telling you right now, never once have I seen it being a consistent thing. I've seen people going into these little bubbles of psychological safety for a week or two and then bugger off and never see them again. It's just as easily broken as we are, as fixable we are too, right? And anyone is as flawed as anyone else. And as an ex-alcoholic, as someone who struggled, I can tell you now that I'm probably the least likely to do it again. I think it's about time that we actually got a shot at being what we want and what we can be and what we need to be, but not against the system structure. That needs to be questioned. That has to be questioned. We'll have to go to policy. We'll have to go... I still can't believe they're taking money from us. I still can't believe they're doing that. And it's disgusting, and I want you to know that. As I said, it's just give them trust. Give them trust. That's what we do. Even 30-second phone call, but it's trust. It's letting them see that the other people are listening to them. They need to feel that if they're being enticed in and they're being promised that something's going to be okay, then for crying out loud, the companies have got to stop with just bringing people in and expecting them to be fine because they wrote a job description out in an inclusive way. So what we need are ways for us to get people from outside to go into a company that they already have trust in. Then they can then work with that organisation to transfer that trust so that then those people inside that organisation can then have trust. And the only way that we can do this is to give those people outside exactly what you're friggin' promising them. And if it's only one small part of the organisation that you're focusing on for that embedding, give that to them. But the most important thing is you need to promise those people that everything going inside there is exactly what they say. They say it's going to be. You can't do that to anyone. Because that's what you do for neurotypical people as well. You're like, this is what you're going to get. Yay! What do you need? I need training for that. Fantastic. So for me, it is about, if you're going to go into a place, you make sure that you do your reconnaissance. You make sure that they say exactly what they're going to say, do what they're going to do, and don't lead you up the garden path. But for employers, you got to get your shit together. Like, there's people out there who need help, but they're ready. Like, there's so many people that can be in the work with just at a push. They're looking in the wrong places. There's a grey area from can work to, and there's people in there that are, and they're still working, right? And they're about to flick out. So trust, deliver it, give them pathways, give women who are neurodivergent, who have had children, who are going through menopause, give them a damn chance to go back to work. Stop being dinguses. Like, stop asking what their condition is. Leave them alone. Just needs-led thing. Just give them what they need and get on with it. Get policies reviewed, get documents, get what you need. Just talk to the people. But so to answer your question, don't go into somewhere until you have trust that you know they're going to deliver on that. And on the employer's point of view, just give them what you say. Put your money into this. You know, build the pathways of trust, and you'll never have someone leave you, ever. I've seen businesses in my marketing career that have had people in them since the start. Salespeople for 20 odd years. Like, how the hell? Why? They just let them be themselves. That was it. Go in there. I bought you because I think you're great and you're going to throw some stuff in. And not, I bought you, so I'm going to just do what I say.